Staying in shape as a father is everything but easy. Life changes so much once you're a father, and you see literally men who have always been in pretty decent shape out of a sudden gain weight and get the dad bod. When I became a father 4 years ago, I didn't want that to happen to me, and so I would seek out advice. I would go on Facebook, I would join all these parenthood, fatherhood, dad-related groups and ask questions like, what do I need to expect? How can I modify my fitness routine? And how can I keep up my fitness level? To my surprise, no one really got answers. In fact, I realized that pretty much all of the dads in there faced the same struggles. They reported once they become fathers, they gained weight, they get out of shape, and this is when I realized the dad bod is actually a real thing. Now, I stepped up and said, I'm not going to let this happen to me. I'm going to show you guys that it's possible to be in top physical shape as a dad, with a family, with a business. I'm gonna make this work. And so it began. I tried to find a way, and it wasn't easy. It was everything but easy. It was actually pretty scary at first, because before I was a father, I would count calories, I would barely ever eat out. I was very, very dedicated to my fitness regimen, and out of a sudden, I want to eat with my family. I want to go to restaurants. I don't want to bring my Tupperware and all that. And I also don't have time to work out 2 hours a day, right? So it was a challenge and it required some trial and error, but eventually I found a method that allowed me to stay in top physical shape, if not better than ever, all whilst eating out, whilst being that, whilst having high stress levels, whilst not sleeping that much. And this time when I became a father, I also emigrated to another country. I had to organize my visa, my apartment, my car, and stress levels were through the roof. But that's another story. Anyway, it took me a while until I found something that worked, but I did it. And ever since, I'm teaching other dads how they can apply it too. And this is how I basically became this inspiring dad from Switzerland who shows other fathers how to get in shape and how they can, work out and modify their diet to get in top physical and hopefully also mental shape. Today, I want to talk about why it is actually so difficult to get and stay in shape as a father in the first place. And I'm going to refer to a blog article I wrote almost 4 years ago when my daughter just was born. So I would write this article and basically write down the challenges I was facing, how I feel, and now I'm gonna reflect on that, tell you how it might have changed, how I look at those things now, and whether it's still such an obstacle. I opened the blog post saying that as a father, you need to be very flexible with your schedule. And I'm going to quote myself here from the blog from 2018 when I wrote, "Do you want to meet a colleague at a certain time in the gym, eat dinner as planned as 8 p.m., or start the weekend with a jog in the park? Anything that used to be possible without any problems and things that were even part of your daily routine are suddenly not so easy anymore. My only a few months old princess, Lara, is now determining my schedule. As a father, you are limited in the things you can do and at what time you can do them." Now, 4 years later, 2022, I would say this is still true to some degree. I mean, as a father, you cannot do just whatever you want. You have responsibilities, you want to be there for your family, for your baby, for your kids. However, it's no longer that problematic as when she was a baby, at least in our situation. Because when you have a baby, for once, you cannot bring a baby anywhere you want. And then you also need to take into account the sleep schedule. Now Lara is older, she can walk by herself, I can take her wherever I want, whether it's go to the gym or to the supermarket. Basically, whatever I do, I can just take her with me. On the other hand, she now develops her own character, right? And she can tell exactly when she want to do something and when not. And this obviously happens when I want to do a certain activity and she just want to be at home and play with her toys. So yeah, it gets easier the older she gets, but obviously you still need to be very flexible and yeah, keep the interest of a child in mind, right? What I also had to learn is to be patient, something that's very important in my opinion. Whether it's going to the supermarket, whether it's going up the stairs, whether it's going to the car or even entering the car, simple things, they sometimes just take much longer than when you would do it just by yourself, right? So my tip here is to calculate in some more time, some reserve. So whatever is going on when your baby, your toddler doesn't want to do the thing you tell her to do, that you still have some reserve and like everything you planned in for later today is not delayed. What I was writing in my blog before about food timing, for example, back then it was very important. So before I was a father, I would eat at 6 p.m. no matter what. It was my schedule and this was my food, my diet plan said. Nowadays, whether I eat at 6, 7 or 8, it doesn't really matter because I'm not a pro athlete and my physique doesn't change at all whether I eat 2 hours before or after. So yeah, it's kind of nonsense. That jog I was referring to on a Saturday morning, go for it, just go a little bit earlier, right? Go at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning and I guarantee that your baby, your toddler will be sleeping still, so no problem there either. And then obviously if you want to meet a friend in the gym, I can still do that. I can either talk to my partner or I simply ask my parents whether they can look after Lara and I can go without the problem. So as you can see, yeah, to some degree you need to be flexible and there is the possibility that some things can go not as planned, but overall, the older she is, the easier it gets. This is my opinion, my experience, right? Honestly, I think most important is that you learn to organize your time and also that unplanned things can happen and also that you just stay calm and relaxed when things don't go as planned and just know how to pivot when needed. Next, I wrote about sleep. So every new parent can relate, I'm 100% sure. When you have a newborn at home, you probably won't get a lot of sleep unless you are that lucky and your baby just sleeps through from the very beginning. Wasn't the case here. Lara would oftentimes wake up at night and obviously she was hungry, so Gabriela had to feed her. And yeah, I would oftentimes wake up too. How I would combat all of that, because to be honest, I don't run that well with not enough sleep. Like, I'm terrible. Like, when I don't get minimum 6 hours of sleep, I just don't function. So back then, I would have much less and I would use a lot of caffeine throughout the day. Just to stay awake, to stay alert. But I remember a few times when I would fall asleep at work on my desk, so all the caffeine didn't help at all. Now, good thing is, once she was a bit older, when Lara, I don't remember, 1-year-old, again, the older she becomes, the easier it gets. She sleeps obviously in her own room and she has now the same sleeping pattern as we have. She goes to bed at 8 p.m, wakes up at 8 a.m, depends on the day. So no longer an issue really. The bad news, it still happens. even now with almost 4 years old. When she has fever, when she feels sick, when her belly hurts, then there are nights when she just doesn't want to sleep, and obviously those nights are still hard. Those are still hard. But overall, it certainly gets better, much better. And to be honest, in the occasional situation when I cannot sleep nowadays, then it's usually not because of her, but more so because of stress or me being restless or you name it. Then I wrote about time constraint, something that pretty much every parent struggles with to some degree. How to combine family and work and fitness. It's tricky. And I'm going to quote myself again from the blog article. So I wrote, "A baby requires time and patience. Spending several hours a day in the gym and producing content is something I don't want to do, since that would mean an even greater load on Lara's mother." Now, the situation has changed a little bit because today it's literally my profession to produce content and also to stay in shape to some degree. But truth is that I spend most of my time, most of my days in the office, 10, 11, 12 hours, sometimes even more. And then obviously I also want to spend time with my family. Now, looking back, I had to give up some activities that were not really good habits in the first place. What I had to give up was, for example, watching Netflix. Back then, I would almost every day watch at least one episode. Nowadays, maybe once a week, max. Also watching YouTube. Back then, I would follow a lot of YouTubers. Nowadays, not a single one. I have no idea what's going on, who uploaded what, because I focus on producing content, not on absorbing, and I don't miss it a single bit, to be honest. What I also have to say is that life has phases. And what I mean by that is that it's okay to scale it back with fitness for a certain time. So let's say you work out 5 times per week, and then this situation, you become father, you can scale it back to twice or 3 times per week. That's an option. And then when the situation is a bit better, you get like more sleep again, and the baby is a bit older, then you scale it back up to 4 or 5. And this is not only related to fatherhood, the same applies to heavy workload, or like when you move or when you go on vacation. The worst thing you can do is simply stop trying, not doing anything at all. Like, you want to keep going. Otherwise, it will happen. You will get out of shape in no time. So take my advice here, keep going. Like I always say, when you have a heavy workload, you also don't say to your family, "I don't have time for you now, we speak again in a month from now." Doesn't make sense, right? Or the other way around, when you have a lot of stress in your private life, you also don't tell your boss, "Boss, I'm very stressed. Can you please come back 2 months from now?" Right? Nobody does that. The exact same way you need to handle fitness. You cannot say, "I'm putting fitness on hold." What you should say, "Okay, I'm going to scale it back right now. It is more realistic to work out 3 times per week, and then when I feel more relaxed again and have more sleep, then I can scale it back up." Then I address the responsibilities that come with fatherhood, and that you obviously want to be there for your family, want to spend time with them, want to be a good role model and show your baby how to live, basically. What I did back then is I would do a lot of home workouts, bodyweight workouts. And that was super funny because Lara would mimic me. She would try to do the plank and the push-ups and like jumping jacks, and it was great fun. In fact, I have a video on YouTube where I made a compilation of me and her working out, where I basically work out and she tries to do the same. It's super funny. Go and check that out on YouTube if you haven't seen it yet. Nowadays, I still try to combine my passion for fitness and family life. Sometimes we go, the 3 of us, to the gym together. It's like a private gym where Lara is allowed to enter. Sometimes I still do home workout. We have a little home gym here. Yeah, it's I think awesome, especially if you want to do something for your health and fitness, but don't want to neglect your family. Combine those things and you can work out, you can be active, and at the same time be a good role model. Lastly, I wrote about how emotional fatherhood made me. I still remember to this day the first time I cried watching a movie or even listening to a podcast. This specific podcast was about another father who spoke me through his experience of welcoming the newborn baby, and I got so emotional that yeah, I had tears in my eyes, something that literally never happened before. And I would also experience food binges for the first time. And let me quote what I wrote here. So, for the first time in my life, I experienced an uncontrolled hunger attack, reached for the candy drawer and ate whatever was in there. Now, this is not something I'm very proud of and was caused by a lack of sleep, feeling of overwhelm, and just me being stressed out. And although this was a bad thing, I think it helped me to understand some of my clients better. Previously, it was just like, okay, you have here your meal plan, just follow it and you will be fine. Why binging? Why do we need the chocolate? And yeah, I mean, there is people out there who struggle with binge eating, and every now and then I get inquiries addressing exactly that issue, and now I can relate to them and I can, you know, empathize. I know how it feels because I went through the same. Now in my situation, I had this, I think 2 times or max 3 times, and yeah, I have it under control. It's not something that repeated itself over and over again. But yeah, I would say it helped me a lot from a coaching perspective, not so much for my physique. It was bad, right? So overall, fatherhood really made me more emotional, that's for sure. And I'm no longer just a machine that does A, B, C, X, Y, Z, sleep, repeat, but more so there's ebb and flow, ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster. Like fatherhood is a roller coaster, and it's actually very challenging, but I would lie if I said I wouldn't love it. I then finished the blog post saying that fatherhood is both a challenge and an opportunity. Now, having worked with hundreds of dads from all over the world, I think it's safe to say this cannot be any truer. You can take fatherhood as an excuse to not work out, to eat crap, and say, I don't have time because like I have now a family, I need to look after them, and I cannot control what I eat because, yeah, I mean, it's just excuses, right? It's just excuses. Or then you can use fatherhood as motivation. You can tell yourself that you want to be a good role model, that you want to be fit and healthy, that you want to be able to run after your kid in the park, that you want to go climbing and do cool stuff with your kids. You want to mess around with them and just have fun along the way. With that being said, it is a challenge to get and stay in shape as a dad, but it's doable. At the end of the day, it's really on you to look after your fitness and health, to prioritize it, to try to get better, to work on yourself, to become the best possible version. Because honestly, who doesn't want to be a good dad, to be fit and healthy, to look good, and to be able to run after your kids? The truth is, however, whether you want to be a fit dad or have the dad bod, the choice is yours.